Good morning, and welcome to Camrose United Church. My name is Daryl DeWalt. Our minister, Helen Reed, is actually sitting amongst us, hiding in the back, recovering from bronchitis and laryngitis. So she has a bit of a squeaky voice, but is improving. And so with that, we're very grateful to have Reverend Alan Richards with us this morning to lead in worship, and he will be up here in a moment. Some announcements. Our next worship service is August 20th. We have 2 weeks off once again. And at that point, Ellen actually will be back with us because Helen will be at a conference or on her way back from a conference in Minneapolis, right? Yeah. There's lots of garden produce again, including some snapdragons if you'd like some. They might be out there still. You're welcome to take produce by donation. Any donations go to the food bank. Over the next couple of weeks when we don't have services, if you would like anything, just come on by and help yourself. You can phone Joanne and she might be able to come help you. We're around some of the time, not all the time. You might need some help if you don't have two of you to lift the boxes up.
Well, good morning. Good morning. And it's lovely to be back here. It's lovely to be here.
So it is nice to be here this morning, and thanks to Kay for inviting me to come and be here. So I'm aware, as you are aware, I think, that we gather this morning on lands that for thousands of years have been and continue to be the home of First Nations and of the Métis Nation. Here they hunted, fished, traded with other nations. Here they nurtured their communities. Here they developed rich and vibrant cultures that continue today. Here there were, and still are, sacred places where people gather for ceremony, where elders pass on the sacred stories to the next generation, stories about how we live in right relationship with the Creator, with creation, with one another. This land holds us together, indigenous and non-indigenous, in a shared, painful colonial history, and with a treaty, and with a hope for new relationship. Join with me in the bulletin. Camrose United Church is located on land encompassed by Treaty 6 that was a meeting grounds, gathering place, and traveling route for the Cree, Assiniboine, Ojibwa, Saulteaux, Anishinaabe, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, and Nakota Sioux. I acknowledge all many indigenous peoples whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries, and I affirm my commitment to the principles and actions of reconciliation. We light this candle aware of God around us, among us, and within us. So let's take a moment of silence as we prepare to celebrate God's presence in our community.
We have come into this special time, in this special place, where God welcomes all of us and each of us as we are. May we let God's wisdom and love touch us and change us.
May what we experience open us to new possibilities and lead us together with our ancestors and our neighbors into the fabric of God's unfolding.
Let us pray. Holy One, your love for us is hidden and shown every day. Your love shimmers in our experiences of pain and of joy. It flourishes in our community and rises yeast-like in our midst.
Holy One, let your love be shown here among us, and teach us to be the love that is so needed to bring you around fully God of still waiting, God of deep longing, God of the heart's true rest, hold us in fathomless peace, guard us with unwaning love. Spirit of promise, Spirit of purpose, Spirit of ceaseless prayer, bathe us in life full and free, kindle our wonder and hope. Word who comes to us, Word who lives with us, Word who disturbs and heals, silence our chattering fears, waken our unconscious faith. Word true and faithful, hope-bringing Spirit, God of enfolding love, come in your fullness and grace, work through our lives for your praise.
I meant to include, so I'll include now, a welcome to those of you who will be watching this on YouTube. Thank you, and we hope that this will be a meaningful service for you, and we thank you for being part of us. Let's join in a prayer for awareness and for God's grace. Holy and loving one, we are people of good intentions. We have good intentions to love one another and to love our neighbors and to draw the circle wide when it comes to defining who our neighbors are. And sometimes, as you know, we do it. And sometimes we get it wrong, and you know that too. We have good intentions to be an authentic community together, to celebrate and share your love, to honor our words and promises, and to live with respect for one another, for others, and for all creation. And we know that sometimes we get it. And we're aware that sometimes we don't. We let our egos and our fears get in the way. We let our hurts and our brokenness derail us. And sometimes we feel we just don't have it within us to be the best we can and to live as lovingly as we can. And so we let others down, and we let you down, and we cause others pain, and we cause you grief. So folks, I imagine God saying at this point something like this. Hey, my children, I love you. So you've fallen down. So you've messed up. Okay, now up you get. Take my hand if you need to. Let's try again. Let's try again this business of loving. Because I love you, love yourselves. And let's make this corner of the world a little kinder, a little more just, a little more peaceful, a little more beautiful, a little more loving. The only real failure is the failure to learn and to try again. And you can do it. And I'll be there with you and for you when you need me. I imagine God saying something like that. Maybe you do too, in your own words. Listen to your hearts. Listen closely.
Simply to be in stillness, simply to trust that God is here, simply to know the holy presence is to be blessed, simply to let the heart be speaking is to be blessed. So am I blessed. So am I blessed within God's keeping. So am I freed from pointless stress, steady to feel the soul replenished, given this grace, folded in peace.
Jesus told many parables, stories from which we may learn. Here's a selection of them from Matthew's Gospel in chapter 13, from the Message. Another story. God's kingdom is like a pine nut that a farmer plants. It is quite small as seeds go, but in the course of years, it grows into a huge pine tree, and the eagles build nests in it. Another story. God's kingdom is like yeast that a woman works into the dough for dozens of loaves of barley bread and waits while the dough rises. All Jesus did that day was tell stories, a long storytelling afternoon. His storytelling fulfilled the prophecy, I will open my mouth and tell stories. I will bring out into the open things hidden since the world's first day. God's kingdom is like a treasure hidden in a field for years and then accidentally found by a trespasser. The finder is ecstatic. What a find! And proceeds to sell everything he owns to raise money and buy that field. Or God's kingdom is like a jewel merchant on the hunt for excellent pearls. Finding one that is flawless, he immediately sells everything and buys it. There's a passage now from Micah, and we're invited to sing from Voices United, number 701.
I invite you to stand and join us. We'll sing it as a round. We'll sing it right through first of all, and then we'll start over, and you can sing with either Joyanne or me. We're not quite in half if we divide the room in half, so maybe that side plus a few over here to sing with Joyanne. First, okay. Yes.
What does the Lord require of you? What does the Lord require of you? Justice, kindness, walk humbly with your God. To seek justice and love kindness and walk humbly with your God. What does the Lord require of you? 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 Justice and love kindness.
Scripture is our song for the journey, passed on from generation to guide and inspire. God calls us to be doers of the word and not hearers only.
So the last few Sundays we've been engaging with some of the parables of Jesus, and this morning we have 4 more. And these parables have something to do, something to say about the kingdom of heaven, what Matthew calls the kingdom of heaven. Mark, Luke, they call it the kingdom of God. We use a more inclusive word, the realm of God. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. and his mentor, Howard Thurman, they used the term beloved community. Beloved community. And I like that term. It makes me think about a world or a small community where everyone's loved and everybody knows they're loved. And so everyone is free to be loving. A community where everyone's loved and free to be loving. A beloved community. Beginning of Matthew's gospel, we're told that when Jesus came up out of the wilderness, when he'd come from that time when he'd been wrestling with who he was, what he was about, what it was he could do to advance the beloved community, the first thing he did was to announce in Matthew's words, the kingdom of heaven is near. Near. The realm of God is for real. The beloved community, well, it's happening here, now. Yeah, right. Personally, I have difficulty some days, often at 2:30 in the morning. But I have difficulty some days believing in the world that we live in, the beloved community is actually taking shape. It's a world, after all, of extreme heat, extreme storms, climate change, the debates, the arguments about climate change, about what we could do, what we can do. And some of those debates go on inside ourselves, I think. It's a world in which we're becoming aware of the graves of children of residential schools, unmarked graves, children whose names are forgotten, and of issues that Indigenous peoples face. And I wonder, and perhaps you wonder, just what is it we can do to advance reconciliation? What is it that we can do to build a new relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians? It's a world of hate, violence towards women, towards immigrants, towards the LGBTQ and two-spirited communities. It's a world with a new pandemic. The increasing numbers of people, including young people, who struggle with issues of mental health. And then there's our own worlds, where we might be struggling with issues of health, or in our relationships, or maybe we're struggling with what is it we believe? What is it we can believe? What makes a difference? How do we make a difference? So I think these 4 parables this morning have something to say that can help us get a handle on that can help us find some sense of hope in this and in us. So you have a farmer who, as Matthew puts it, is scattering seed, mustard seed. As Eugene Patterson puts it, pine seeds. Matthew says these small seeds grow into trees. I think he's exaggerating. He's so excited about the message that they grow into shrubs. And those shrubs are enough to welcome birds, just as the pine tree can welcome birds and give them shelter and a place to build their nests. Small things have significant consequences. And then there's a woman who takes yeast into 3 measures of flour, says Matthew. She makes 12 loaves, says Eugene Patterson. Well, I'm grateful to Alex Oliver here for some conversation about yeast. He makes bread, as probably many of you know, and it's wonderful bread that you make. And some of you may make bread too. And it takes a small amount of yeast. Alex says he uses 8 grams of yeast, mixed with a little warm water and some sugar into the flour. And those 8 grams of yeast are enough to cause the dough to rise into a couple of good loaves of bread. Yeah. Small things can have significant consequence. That mustard seed, and I'll go with the mustard seed here. Jesus' audience, hearing that, would have been surprised by him. Say what? Kingdom of heaven? That grows from a little mustard seed? That grows from a weed? We don't want mustard seeds in our barley, in our wheat, in our canola. We don't want them cluttering up those nice straight furrows that we work so hard to plow. We don't want those shrubs taking up space in the small fields that we have. It's estimated that in Jesus' day, some of those farmers listening to him might have had on average 4.5 acres in which to grow the produce they needed for the year, and maybe a little extra to sell for other things they needed. We don't want the shrubs taking up that kind of space. And Jesus says, oh, no, you do. It's exactly that kind of thing from which the kingdom of heaven grows. Things we overlook, things we discard, people that we're not sure we want, things about ourselves that we're not sure about. I remember when I was on staff here and I would try to find some volunteers to go on committees, the finance committee. And I would get told, Alan, thanks for the invitation, but I really can't do that. I don't have the experience. I don't have the knowledge. I can't do that. Not true. Because there's something in you that you and the other members of the committee can't do, but you can, to help grow that committee, that group. Yeah. Surprising things that have a significant difference. Alex also told me that yeast is a living organism. A living organism. People, we can be that leavening product that makes that beloved community take shape somewhere in our midst, somewhere around us. There's something else about the yeast. Alex doesn't use 1 gram. He uses 8. Those 8 feed off that sugar in the water, and they double. We don't have to do these small things to make a difference by ourselves. 2 people, 3 people, and a few more join them. And the next thing you know, there's a house built for Habitat for Humanity. Or there's a family, a refugee family who've been welcomed. Or a small group gets together, and the next thing you know, the church is reducing its carbon footprint, as a certain church I know did. Yeah. Or a small group of people get out there, and they plant a garden, and my gosh, those snapdragons and that spinach and the carrots, my gosh. Small things make a difference. Small groups make a difference. We don't have to do it alone, and we don't have to do the whole project. Maybe we help plant the garden, but we won't be there around to harvest it in the fall. We don't have to do the whole project. We do what we can contribute. I'm thinking of a trans person who she is, and that's her pronoun, she's a professional engineer. She has a company of her own. She volunteers with a small group that work with young people struggling from their mental health. And she is passionate about math. Math, which is so important for engineering, calculation, and for other things. And she tells those youth, anybody can learn math. And she proves it to them by teaching them. I'm thinking of a woman in my mother's church in Sydney, and she lived on BC equivalent to Aish, and she gathered small bits of yarn, sweaters, scarves from the thrift shop. She takes them apart, she cleans them, and she ends up knitting these colorful prayer shawls for other people. I'm thinking of a small group of high school students who find a bit of courage, and they are standing up in school, they're standing up at home, they're standing up in the community, and they're saying, no, we need space, safe space for LGBTQ and two-spirited youth. And this week I read about a small group in Scandinavia. They love scuba diving together. And they go out and they take trowels, small things, right? And they scoop up seagrass. And they go further north where there isn't any, and they transplant it. And that seagrass is spreading. And seagrass, it captures and stores carbon. Small things, small ways, small groups that can make a difference. There's one other thing about these parables. The second two talk about people who had found something really valuable, buried treasure in a field, the perfect, genuine pearl. And they sell everything they've got to buy that field, to buy that pearl. And I know what you're thinking. You're going, whoa, wait a second. What's all this business about selling everything we got? And there's another story about Jesus asking someone to do that, but that's for another time. These are parables. We don't have to take them literally. Jesus isn't saying, get yourself a metal detector and go out in some farmer's field and find buried treasure. Jesus isn't saying invest in expensive jewelry. And I think the parables mean something deeper than selling everything we have. What's more valuable than all the stuff we could sell? But ourselves. These small things make a difference when we give them from ourselves, from our hearts, with our minds. We think about it, we find out what we need to learn. They make a difference. Maybe they require all the energy that we happen to have, all the strength that we have. They make a difference because we give of ourselves as we are, with what we have, with what we're capable of. Yeah, I know this world can be frightening. It can leave us feeling confused about things. It can make us feel powerless to do anything. We might lose heart. But this is the thing. The good news of the gospel is that God loves us. We're already part of the beloved community. We don't have to be big. We don't have to do big things. Teresa of Calcutta, Mother Teresa, now Saint Teresa, said that small things done with love ourselves is enough. That's enough. May that be so. May that be so.
Tis the gift to be simple, tis the gift to be free, tis the gift to come down where you ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, to be in the valley of love and delight, when true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. 'Tis the gift gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where you ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
As part of our response to God's love, we offer our simple gifts of time and treasures as we are able. We are grateful for your offerings for the work of this beloved community, for your service and your financial gifts through PAR, directly to the office, or left in the offering plates at the entrances as you come in or leave this space this morning. And we offer this song of solidarity. Do you want your own? Okay.
When we build walls, we will build bridges, open up a different way. When they close their eyes, we will sing. Whether you're a friend or a stranger, one world we're traveling through. Whether you're fearful or in danger, we will stand with you.
When they teach hate,
we'll sow love, open up our arms so wide. When they scream and shout, we will sing. Whether you're a friend or a stranger, one world we're traveling through. Whether you're fearful or in danger, we will stand with you.
when they hide the truth,
we will keep singing, shining out the brightest light. When they try to silence us, we will sing. Whether you're a friend or a stranger, one world we're traveling through. Whether you're fearful or in danger, we will stand with you.
So thank you, Dave, for reading this morning. And thank you, Daryl and Joanne, for your gifts of music this morning. And thank you, each one of you, for coming and being part of this worship this morning. Let's join our hearts in prayer. Generous God, may our gifts from our financial resources be seeds for the life and work of Camrose United Church and of the mission and service of the United Church of Canada. And may our gifts of time, skills, caring, the gifts of ourselves, be as yeast for the creation of your beloved community. Creator Spirit, we pray for those who grieve, the loss of a loved one or friend, the loss of hope or a dream, the loss of justice or a safe home. We pray, too, for all who experience estrangement within family, among colleagues, from this community. We pray for those who are ill, who live with chronic pain, who are facing surgery or recovering from it, and for all who struggle for mental health and a feeling of well-being. Loving and compassionate Creator, we pray too for the healing of your creation from the ravages of climate heating, for peace where there's war, for justice where there is inequity, for understanding and affirmation of those who, because of their gender, ethnicity, or religion, suffer hatred and violent words, violent actions. Creator, we know some of those for whom we are praying. You know them all. We're aware of some of the issues and crises in our society and our world. You are wherever love is needed. So accept our love and give us what we need so we can be your hands, your love in this so hurting, so beautiful world. Amen. We'll close our prayers with this.
We can do no great things. We can do no great things. We can do no great things. Only small things with great love. We can do no great things. We can do no great things. We can do no great things. Only small things with great love. We can do no great things. We can do no great things. We can do no great things. Only small things with great love. We can do no great things. We can do no great things. We can do no great things. Only small things with great love.
So let's go now. And in this crazy, painful, wonderful world, be seeds of hope. Let's go now and be yeast for God's beloved community. We will go now, blessed by a wise and holy love. We will go now into this week, into this corner of the world. We will go now and live simply and with delight in everything good, just, and beautiful. And may the love of God, the peace of Christ, and the companionship of the Spirit be with us, now and always. Amen. So I want you to take a moment and look at the candle. Look at the flame. Maybe you don't see the tip of the flame. Maybe you see the light around it. Now I'd like you to close your eyes and picture that flame, that light. Because that's what you're going to take out with you. The love of God that is within us, reflecting God's love. That's what we carry. That's what will bless our lives this week and of those with whom we spend it. May that be so. Amen.